This is Generation Stadia, giving you that daily dose of everything and anything Stadia related, and today we're going to be doing something just a little bit different. We're going to be taking a look at some upcoming games that are coming to Google Stadia, and I'll be playing them myself and giving you my quick impressions. Now I need to be very clear with the following disclaimer. All of the gameplay you're about to see is running off a PC. They're being played in 4K and being recorded in the same resolution. And on top of that, all of these are demos for these games, so they're all early builds. I'll be linking them in the description below if you have a gaming PC and want to play them through Steam. The reason I'm making this video is to really just talk about the games themselves and make that the entire focus. The games we'll be taking a look at are Windjammers 2, Cris Tales, Rock of Ages 3, and Destroy All Humans. And now that that's all out of the way, let's begin by talking about Windjammers 2. This is the big return of a cult classic arcade game called Windjammers, and it's looking better than ever, and from my time playing it, it feels amazing. Seriously, out of all the games that I'm actually going to be talking about today, this probably has to be the one I'm most excited for after playing it. And that's not to talk ill about the other games either, they're all fantastic, but Windjammers 2 has that sort of replayability that gets you hooked. This 1v1 flying disc game is easy to understand, but also has a lot of depth. It's fast-paced, strategic, and hard to master. You'll have multiple options at your disposal on tossing the disc itself, from slap shots, drop shots, jump shots, smashes, and your powerful super. Aside from that, the choice of character also matters a ton. Some may be faster, some may have more power, or some are trying to find a balance between the two. All the gameplay you're seeing in the background are from online sessions against other players, and I have to say the best feeling is when you start rallying back and forth without letting the other one score. It really does build up a tension of not wanting to mess up, and the moment someone does, it's just either a sigh of relief or really big disappointment. And once the super EX moves come into play and you're able to defend against one but also respond with your own, it just feels very addictive. And speaking as someone who never actually played the original arcade-based version, I can totally see why this is a cult classic. Aside from the fun and addictive gameplay, it has a beautiful 2D hand-drawn art style and a very classic soundtrack. Everything from the menu, the in-game sounds, and even the versus screen just screams the 90s. You can really tell just how passionate the developers behind this game are and how much they really want to bring back that old school feel. Now before we move on to the next game, I just want to reiterate that the game does feature both local and online multiplayer, and as of right now, it does not have a pre-order price or a release date other than coming soon for any platform. I'll definitely be picking this one up on Stadia, and I can't wait to verse some of you out there. But for now, let's switch gears and talk about the next title, and this one's quite different. It's Cris Tales. This indie love letter to classic JRPGs like Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI, and Valkyrie Profile is both unique and beautiful. The very unique art style and use of color really make this game stand out and pop up. But other than that, what makes this so unique? Well, that's its use of time. In Cris Tales, you'll be using the past, present, and future to your advantage not only in battles, but in the story. A perfect example of this is given to you as part of a tutorial. For instance, you can choose to poison an enemy, and then move their time into the future so they take all the damage in at once. And as you'll see, they also age as well. Likewise, you can go to the past, plant a seed, and then move it to the present, and you'll see the fruition of that seed grown. It's a super interesting mechanic, and I can't wait to see how it all builds up together once more abilities and spells are unlocked. Another thing I want to mention about the combat itself is that it seems pretty inspired by Persona in terms of the visual design. They do also incorporate a bit of that active combat system where if you time pressing a button right during your attack, you'll deal bonus damage as well as parrying and deflecting. This certainly makes the gameplay a little more involved than just selecting and waiting, but I do kinda hope they play around with that a little more because from what I played in the demo, it did feel a little bit simple. And that's strictly talking about the active combat system. The actual strategy behind the game is pretty in-depth due to the past, present, and future mechanic. And without spoiling too much, the story that's presented within the demo definitely is interesting, and I'm curious as to where it goes. What did surprise me is that it seems to be fully voice acted, at least from what I could tell. And I know I've said it quite a few times already, but wow, the art style is phenomenal, especially when you're just walking around the town, moving back and forth in a 3D space with that 2D visual art style is just great. It almost looks like a storybook when you're playing it. Aside from the slice of story that the demo offers, it also offers another mode called Coliseum. This is pretty much where you fight wave after wave of enemy until you give out, and you don't get any heals in between, so it's kind of a survival thing. And let me just say, it gets pretty difficult fairly fast. If you have any sort of interest in the game and have a PC available to download the demo, I'd certainly tell you to give it a shot. It gives you a pretty good taste of what you can expect, but I can't wait to see what more gets added as you play through the game. Cris Tales will be launching November 17th of this year, but there is no current pre-order price on any platform. And yes, for those wondering, that date also includes the Stadia version. But now let's move on to the next game, and that's Rock of Ages 3 Make and Break. The best and easiest way for me to describe what this game is to you, think about it like Super Monkey Ball meets tower defense. And as you can tell by the name, it takes place throughout periods in history. That said, it's certainly not the type of game to take itself too seriously. The bit of story that you're allowed to play in the demo is pretty much wacky storytelling. The humor itself is very Monty Python-esque. As for the gameplay, like I said, part of it is Super Monkey Ball, so you'll be rolling down a hill and you're gonna be trying to crash in through some castle gates. But don't think it'll be easy. There'll be a ton of obstacles in your way and you're gonna have to navigate your rock or whatever you're rolling as in a difficult path. And the tower defense part comes into play when you're setting down the defenses so you're protecting your own gate. That's right, in some instances you'll be rolling down the hill trying to crush through an enemy gate while also setting up defenses so they can't crush through yours. Randomly throughout the map, gold will start spawning and you just have to select it to pick it up, and this will give you more budget to actually place more defenses down. But if you happen to be rolling around trying to crush through enemy gates, you can also pick up the gold by just rolling over it. Aside from that, there's also another really big component to the game. After all, the game is subtitled Make and Break. And as you can imagine, that means you can make your own custom courses and share it with the community. In fact, this is already doable in the demo, and the community has already created some pretty interesting levels. Many of these levels are much more like obstacle courses or time trials than they are just simple hitting the gate and winning. The creation tools are certainly a great addition, and I can't wait to see what people start to come up with here. And before we move on to the last game, I do also want to confirm that the game does support 2-player split screen. The current release date for the Steam version of the game is July 21st, and I'm not gonna say that this is exactly the same for the Stadia version as that's not been officially confirmed on either front, but I think it's pretty much safe to assume so. I only say this because the game was previously supposed to come out June 2nd, and at that time there was multiple sites reporting Stadia would be launching on the same day. But now let's move on to the last title, and that's Destroy All Humans. This is a remake of a PS2 era cult classic, and I have to say it looks fantastic. And personally, I never played the original, but I did know about these games, and I heard they were a ton of fun, and they were right. The gameplay still really holds up well, even to today's standards, and I'm sure they probably modernized it in some sort of way, but using your psychic powers to fling things off into a distance is a blast. Even the comedy itself still manages to get a few laughs out of me, and I thought it was an enjoyable experience overall. One of my favorite parts has to be flying on your spaceship and just blowing up buildings with your massive laser beam. That said, this was certainly the shortest demo out of all of them. My only closing thoughts is that I can't wait to try this out on Stadia and see what other crazy powers you get later down the road. The game is slated to come out July 28th and is currently priced at $29.99 US. That said, the Stadia version doesn't have a confirmed release date yet. And to be on the safe side for this title, I don't think we should be thinking it'll launch day and date until we get official confirmation. But until we do, I can safely say that this game is gonna be a blast to play, and I'm sure a lot of people will really have a good time with it. Now that pretty much covers everything I have to say in this video, but I do have a question. Out of all the games you saw here today, which one are you most excited for? For me, honestly, it has to be between Destroy All Humans and Windjammers 2, but out of the time I played both, I definitely think I enjoyed Windjammers 2 a bit more. But like I said, the Destroy All Humans demo was relatively short, so I'm sure I'll get much more out of that once it's fully released. Either way, if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful at all, be sure to hit that like button as it really does help the channel out, and if you're wanting more content like this, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. Today's end of video message, I'm just asking for feedback on this video. Did you enjoy the style of video it was? It's something a little bit different than what I would usually do. I'm looking forward to your comments down below, and as always, thank you for watching. This has been Generation Stadia, giving you that daily dose of everything and anything Stadia related. The Gen S community is over 4,300 strong and growing by the day, and until next time, I'll catch you in the clouds.